Welcome back, and thank you for your time and thinking in that space. It's always interesting to have a document in front of you and to feed into that rather than a kind of organic interactive discussion. So thank you for putting your brains in document mode for that time. I wonder if I could ask each of the groups just to have a very quick summary of what you were talking about and what your conclusions were, if you had any. So over to the mitigation emissions group.
That one I'll do because I was facilitating that as best I could. Simple answer is I don't think we can summarize it in a reasonably short period of time. 2-second summary of two majors that come to my mind from this. One is the need for real-time dashboards as much as possible to say where are we and where are we going. The second is that we actually have to start to deal with one major issue, which is the fact that Nelson City Council and Tasman District as councils in two different areas, one dominantly rural, the other dominantly urban, have got different priorities in terms of how they deal with things like issues to do with infrastructure that may be threatened by the sea and issues to do with fire in rural areas, those kind of things. Lots and lots of big issues need thinking about. I'm collecting them together. We'll feed them into the CAB from there.
Wonderful, thank you very much. Okay, the sequestration group.
I can talk to that one. So there was a lot of really interesting discussion in that. Adam Cohen was on the call and he was talking about buildings that actually sequester carbon. So they're using materials and methods that will sequester carbon through the building process. So that's something that hasn't been included at this stage. Also, Michael made the really important point that just as a general piece of feedback on the RSCAP, that it needs to be readable and accessible and really encouraging to the general public, which is one of the goals of the document. But at the moment, some parts of it talk very much about where we are now and where we want to be. And there's an enormous gulf between those two things, which to your everyday citizen might be quite alienating in terms of encouraging people to take the small actions that are required every day to get us there. So just making sure we hit that balance. And what else on sequestration? Oh, also a bit of talk about the selecting appropriate species. So finding that balance between species that are native and species that will provide sustainable building materials, and also looking at species that will be appropriate for the warmer climate in future, so not just what's currently present. And I think that there's lots of other things, but those are some highlights.
That's great, that's wonderful. Okay, adaptation to physical effects of climate change.
Hi, so we talked about quite a lot of different things in the group. One of the main things was localization and the effect of energy, and also supplying essentials like groceries and things, like going back to having local grocery stores in each neighborhood, that sort of thing, and sharing things and sharing resources like gardening in a more coordinated way. We also talked about the different types of risks, sea level rise and fires and that sort of thing, and being careful about how we go forward and what we plant, and not swapping one risk for another set of risks, rewilding, and also the big one on education and outreach, and how different organisations who are tackling things like managed retreat, how they could share that and actually become leaders, and that some of them have opportunities and windows of opportunity before they have to move, and how they could turn that into a positive, not just a negative, which I thought was a really interesting way of doing it. So, yeah.
Awesome, thank you. And the last group, adaptation to social and economic effects of climate change. I think you're muted, Joe.
Sorry. Okay. Yeah, I said it leaked over a little bit to physical adaptation, but we did try to stick to social and economic. We talked about the program, the Switch program that James Moran is disseminating, and to help us change our values and change behaviour, and some children's literature directed in the same way, getting stories out, but particularly having conversations is crucial to getting these ideas out. Endorsed the inclusion of local resilience, relocalize essentials, zero waste local economy, and doing things that stimulate conversations. We talked about Red Cross and its possible preventive potential as a disaster-oriented organisation. The need to work together more. The difficulty of people on low income in affording some of the elements needed for adaptation, such as having higher water bills if they're growing their own food, needing to install water tanks. And we also moved from that to the importance of decreasing New Zealand's wealth and income inequity as essential for successful adaptation and for successful mitigation and adaptation. And that although the actors are central government actors, it needs everyone to advocate that. We talked a little bit more about energy descent entering planning, needing more knowledge about food and diets to engender change, and the importance of community energy and allocation of goods such as energy and water by community decision rather than by the market. And then we talked about alternative money systems.
Goodness, lots and lots in there. Wonderful, thank you. So all of those notes will feed into the document you've just seen, and the next time you see this part of the document will be in February, after the RSCAP group has had a chance to incorporate it all and make it all shiny and concise and wonderful for a consensus process and publication. But you will see next month another part of it. So the process will probably be much like today's, in that you'll have a week to view it beforehand, or up to a week beforehand, and it will be looking at the third goal of the forum, which is around a just transition and the sense of kotahetanga, we're all in it together, and so we'll be exploring that kind of question, and whether our planned response is sufficient to deal with the kind of social and ecological issues that we've identified. So there'll be some overlap, of course, but yes, onwards. So in February we'll do a consensus process on the whole thing, and also in February I hope to be able to produce for you the final charter of the Nelson Tasman Climate Forum, at which point we'll have a ceremonial signing so you can become actual official members of the forum as if you're not already. And that will allow some really interesting processes to be able to take place, such as consensus processes that involve voting, which may be useful in some circumstances to produce, for example, a position on a particular issue as a whole forum. So interesting times ahead. I think that's probably enough from me. We do have a few minutes left over, which I think might be a first. So I thought I would use them just to allow people, particularly new people, people who haven't been involved so much with the forum just to introduce themselves and say hi, and to know, to help us understand how you would like to be part of the forum, and how we can help you, you know, feel like you're belonging. Who'd like to do that? Would anyone like to do that?
And Dickinson, your mute is still, you're still muted.
Pardon? You're talking to me? Yes. So I've been coming along to the forum gatherings, and I came along because I'm running a small group called the Murray Stream Guardians, to restore a piece of that stream up Tahuna, Douglas Road. And I got into the Te Ao Māori Kaitiakitanga group, which evolved rather rapidly through this COVID lockdown. And I kind of became the secretary because I wasn't working, and helped compile the information from the Maoris in the group to go into a Google, a Google box. But by the end of, once I was back to work, the Maoris in our group kind of snaffled our main man, as you know, Te Wihi, and spirited off it with him, really. So our group collapsed at that point. And so I've been floating ever since, and coming along to the Hui at Riverside, and I keep falling into places. So I seem to have joined the Recycle. I don't know their whole wording, but I'm at the Recycle Cafe. So I'm helping Julie there, and coming along to these Huis to educate myself.
Kia ora. Well, it's lovely to have you, Anne. It's always nice to see you and to get your inputs into the various discussions that we're having. Kia ora.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to connect with the whole group?
Yes, sure. I'll introduce myself. So my name's Ruth, and this is the first forum that I've been to. So I've just recently taken over as the manager at Natureland, and I've just taken over from Stephen, who's been interim for the last year, and he's just stepped onto the board as chair. So I believe he's been coming to some of these meetings, and he's now passed on to me. So lovely to meet you all. And obviously down here in beautiful Tahuna Nui, we're right at the edge of sea level rise. So this is an issue that's really pertinent to us. So I'm really enjoying being part of this and hearing the conversation, and look forward to being involved moving forward. Thanks.
Ruth, have you made it onto our website?
Yes, I have. Yep, just finding all the documents, and yeah,
Checking things out.
Learning curve right now for me. It's only week 3.
Well, welcome. We're overjoyed to have you, and all the other businesses that take part in this. It's really important. So thanks for being here. You might want to connect with Bruce, who you can see on the screen there, who works with the business and economy section of the group of the forum. Just a thought. Wonderful. Well, oh, I think we're done. It's time. Thank you all for being here. You may have seen in the calendar that there is a Climate Change Commission webinar starting right now. So if you're keen, then you can go and check that one out if you've not had enough Zoom. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon, and I'll see you all next time. Kia ora.
Thank you, Julie.